Wrinkle in all of this is that new Des Moines Register Bloomberg Iowa poll. It is out just this morning, and it shows Rand Paul in fifth place, all alone in fifth place in Iowa, behind Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, and Ben Carson, but ahead of candidates like Jeb Bush and Chris Christie. And those candidates will be on the stage tomorrow night for that debate. And Senator Rand Paul joins me here now. Senator, thanks for taking a few minutes. So let's just be clear on what's going on here for everybody. The rules for this debate say you got to be in the top 5 in the average in Iowa or New Hampshire. You got to be in the top 6 nationally. So if this poll were included in that average that they ran on Monday night, I guess, you'd be in the top 5 in Iowa.
Yeah, and I think that's just more evidence. We think it's mounting evidence that maybe we need to reassess what happened here. Even last week, your own poll, NBC, had me in the top 5 by myself as well in Iowa. So there's a lot of evidence that there's a lot of motion in the polls up and down. And I think it's a mistake when people are so close within the margin of error that we should be excluding people. We have a national campaign, for goodness sakes. Last week I was in Iowa announcing a 1,000 precinct chair. It really isn't fair to the voters of Iowa to disenfranchise them and say, oh, we're going to exclude certain people from the debate.
Well, practically speaking, then, I think you were just over at Fox News. They're right across the street from us here. Any indication from them that they would even reconsider their criteria at this point?
You know, it's brand new. This poll just came out from the Des Moines Register. Interestingly, it fits within the criteria. There was a window when they were going to accept polls. This poll was done within the window, but then released after the window. So it's complicated.
Right, this was completed on Monday and released today. So if it had been released Monday, you make the top 5.
Well, it depends on whether you count release or actually the poll. But it looks like the poll actually was done within the window of time. And the interesting thing is several polls are showing this. And when it's that close, we think it's a mistake, really, to exclude people from the debate and say, oh, well, we're going to discount your candidacy just because you were 0.2 off or something. But right now, it looks like if you count this poll, we'd be in.
So what happens if you do not get on the stage for this debate on Thursday? And you said you don't want to be part of that undercard debate that they have as well. I mean, we're 3 weeks from Iowa. We're 4 weeks from New Hampshire. What does that do to your campaign if you're not out there?
Well, we're going to take our campaign directly to the voters. I'll be in New Hampshire and in Iowa. We have a strong organization. In fact, I would make the argument that right now our public organization is stronger than any other candidacy in Iowa. So we do deserve to be first here. We just can't accept any kind of artificial designation that tells our supporters or voters in Iowa that we're not in the first tier, because everything else indicates that we should be and ought to be in the first tier.
I want to ask you a few things about the State of the Union last night, but actually about first the response to the State of the Union. It's rare that the response generates the kind of interest that this one from Nikki Haley, the governor of South Carolina, is. But we're seeing two different sorts of reactions from Republicans here. She took some clear shots at Donald Trump, it seems, in Trumpism in this speech. Seen plenty of Republicans say, I'm glad she did that. That's my Republican Party. That's somebody I want speaking for me. Donald Trump was out with some harsh words in her day. What did you think of Nikki Haley's message last night?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is I don't want our party to be represented by sort of an anger towards immigrants or an anger towards people of certain ethnic groups. I think that's a big mistake. We're an increasingly diverse country, and we need to be Republicans, an increasingly diverse party. So it is a mistake to sort of characterize people who are all immigrants as being drug dealers, for example, or rapists. So I do object to that, and I think it's important that we make sure that the Republican Party has a face that says, you know what, we're a welcoming party. We want liberty voters. We want people of every different race in our party. So we'll see. I think it's good to have a variety of voices.
Do you think, though, there's one theory on this, that Donald Trump's rise and his sort of staying near the top of the polls, part of it is having people who are seen as, quote unquote, the Republican establishment attacking him, ganging up on him. Does something like that last night, where the official Republican response ended up being more of a response to Trump than to Obama, does that end up helping him?
You know, I don't think anybody considers me to be part of the establishment. I ran against the establishment and won against most of the Republicans wanting to choose someone else. But I do think that it's important with someone like Donald Trump to talk about the facts. The fact that he didn't know what the nuclear triad was, that we have missiles by air, land, and sea, and also that his spokesman then came out and said, you know what our problem is? That we haven't been willing enough to use our nuclear arsenal. That kind of statement scares me and makes me think, you know what, he shouldn't be commander-in-chief. I would like to have a good substantive debate about that, and that's why I think my voice in the debate, calling against regime change, calling not to make the sand glow in the Middle East, but saying, you know what, we have to have a smarter way to approach terrorism. I think it's an important voice in the party.
If Trump were, though, to win the Republican nomination, could you support him as a general election candidate?
Yeah, I think it would have to happen, but I think we're a long way away from deciding who the nominee is. The reason I say I'll support the nominee is when I won and beat the establishment, they all came around and supported me. So that's the way party politics work, is people do group around the nominee, but we're a long way away from that. I think there's a very good chance that Trump doesn't win in Iowa. I think the veneer comes off, and then I think he'll struggle in New Hampshire as well. All
right, Senator Rand Paul, we are awaiting word to see if that new poll gets factored in, see if you're on that stage Thursday. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.